Alrighty boys, in today's video I'm going to talk about how it was to grow up with a dark entity the way that we saw it at least. This was a little bit difficult for me to put together, and I'm going to just keep this short and sweet because if you guys want me to elaborate to recall any of these memories further, then I would love to do so in future videos. This one will just be talking about some topics very shortly. So let's start when my parents bought the house, right? Um, there is two things that happened to my parents that my mom told me about that has always stuck with me because it's very bizarre. They just got the house, they were working in it, right? Painting, putting furniture, you name it, right? So what happened is my mom was standing on a ladder, she was home alone, and she was painting in my room. Now, keep this in mind, my room, right? Which, is the room that would become my room, of course. I wasn't born yet at this point. And my mom was painting and she felt the ladder yank from under her, which, you know, luckily she's fine, right? Because she was still young at the time. She didn't get injured, but the ladder she was standing on got yanked from under her, which is impossible because she was home alone. There was no reason for this to happen, but it did happen. And it's very scary to think about because that could have, ended very badly, of course. Now, at the end of the video, I'll give my thoughts on why these things happened. Um, because I think that it's, yeah, a ghost or worse that is stuck to the property itself that just didn't want us there, right? Now, on the right here, I have a picture of a window. Now, my window does not look like this and is bigger, but this is the best I could find because I want to talk about the angle of the window. This is how my mom explained it to me. They were working in my room, ready to put the window in, and the window was standing against the wall at about this angle that you see on the picture. There is no way a window of that, at that angle can fall over, but it did. It fell on my dad's leg while they were working, and it actually hurt him because, like I said, my window is even bigger than that and heavy. But the weird thing is, this is the angle that that window was standing at. There is no way that that can just fall over. Now, after I was born, I would cry all night long. See, I was put right from the hospital. I was put in my own room, right? The room that we've been talking about. And I would cry all night. My mom would not be able to shut me up, right? But here's the crazy part. We would go on these trips sometimes to the coast and we would sleep there in like an hotel, right? And I would never ever cry when we were sleeping at any other place, like these hotels or when my mom would bring me downstairs or, in my parents' room, whatever. I would never cry except for in my own room. I would cry all night long. That's a little weird, isn't it? Since, I was told that I would not cry anywhere else but my room. It's a little weird, right? Now, as time went on and I developed the ability to remember things, uh, I remember a lot of stuff happening. And one of these things was was very eerie because I was obviously, which you can imagine, I grew up being afraid of the dark. So I got this light that looks very much like this one from my grandma. And it worked perfectly fine, no issues with it whatsoever. Never had an issue with it back then. I obviously don't live in that house anymore, so, who knows where my lamp is. But it worked perfectly fine. Now, what's creepy is that I would have this on next to my bed, but sometimes this light would turn off. Now this light has a switch, right? It has a cable, much like this one you see, and it has a switch on the cable. And I would just lay in bed, being scared, trying to sleep like every other night, and this light would turn off. It happened more than once. It's very, very weird. I'm just laying in bed, I'm scared, suddenly this light turns off, the room is completely dark. What I then do is immediately reach out to find the switch on the cable and hit the switch, and the light just turns on and stays on. Like nothing ever happened. So that cannot be a coincidence. It cannot be a problem with the lamp itself. But yeah, very, very eerie. Now, what you also should know is that I was not the only person experiencing these things. Now, I can do a video on what my mom experienced while she was still there with us. I can do a video talking about my dad. He admitted to me once that he does think there is something in the house, but that was just once in my whole life. Other than that, he always denied it. But I can do a little video on that. But who did experience things with me is my little brother. Now, I'm the eldest of three. Then there is my middle brother, and then there is my youngest brother. Now, the youngest brother didn't experience anything back then because he's 7 years younger than me, so he was very, very little, obviously, or not even born yet. So my middle brother, he experienced things with me. I can maybe do a video of, what he experienced as well, seeing things from his perspective. We'll see. Depends on what you guys want to see and if this video even does well. But one of the very creepy things that happened to both of us, and this happened multiple times, like for many years, is we would hear whispers. Voices whispering in the dark. And what would often happen is we would hear someone we know whisper to us. Uh, this is obviously a trick that these entities play on you. And, as a kid, you don't really know that. You don't realize it yet. But I vividly remember this night that I was trying to sleep and I could hear my brother whispering my name from across the hallway from his room. But it was the middle of the night and we were kids and it was a school night. So, that we just wouldn't do that. We wouldn't do that because we were afraid of our parents hearing us, right? But I could clearly hear him whispering my name in the hallway or like at his door. So what I did is I got up, even though I was super scared. I got up, I opened my door a bit, and I looked because I was assuming he was standing there in the hallway. So I looked. There is nothing there. Now, more so than nothing being there, his door to his room was closed. The door was closed. So I thought that me getting out of bed, maybe he thought that it was my stepmom getting up because she heard him. So I thought, okay, he closed the door because he thought, it's our stepmom. He's scared that he's gonna get caught being awake. So I walked over to his room and, well, their room. Both my little brothers slept in the same room across the hallway. And I opened the door, and immediately to your left is what you see first is my youngest brother, and he was sound asleep. He was probably like 5 years old or even younger. He was sound asleep. And then I look to the rest of the room on my right side, and my middle brother is sleeping there. So I go up to his bed because, like saying his name, because I was genuinely thinking he was awake. He was just scared that I wasn't me, right? So I go up to his bed, but he's sound asleep. He's snoring. He's sound asleep. There is no way that 5 seconds ago he was calling me. And yeah, things like this also happened to him. Uh, Things like this would happen to us a lot. And it really is just super unsettling to think about. Another thing that is super, super scary to us that we both experienced is shadows. Living shadows, as I like to say. Obviously, when there's like a car driving past your window or something, you'll see shadows. You'll see, but that's completely different. These shadows would move in completely dark rooms and without like any light from the outside, right? Any cars driving by, whatever, you could see humanoid shadows move like, let's say, over the walls, across the walls, right? Or whatever you want to say. That is super, super scary as a kid, definitely. Well, as an adult, it's already scary enough, but as a kid, it's super scary to be around. and this would mainly happen in my room. I heard my little brothers saying that they saw this every now and then, like in their room, but I would see this like almost every night in my room. It's insane. And that combined with whispers and other noises like knocks and things moving, it's super scary. Then I can do a whole separate video about that, by the way, as well. And what I can also do a whole separate video about is nightmares. For most of my life, uh, actually, while living in that house, I had nightmares that some nightmares that kids should not be having. I can tell you all about that at some later time, but I had videos. Wow, I had nightmares of like my dad like murdering us. I had nightmares of creatures that don't exist. I had nightmares of, and this is a very interesting topic. Sometimes I had nightmares of a woman completely dressed in black that my this is crazy, right? That my little brother said that he has seen as well in the house, and I have seen her once in the house, and even my dad told me that he saw a woman in black in the house, and that's someone I dreamt of, and she was killing me in a particular room in the house. And I can do a whole video talking about that because that's not a coincidence that three of us at least have seen that same woman that was in that nightmare, right? Um, Now something very strange happened at one point. I don't remember what age I was, but we vividly remember this because my dad was not a religious person. Uh, Yet one day we went to bed and he went upstairs with us, which he didn't do either. And this thing with holy water in it was hanging by my room. And he taught us, all three of us, how to make, a cross sign on our forehead with the holy water in there. And I remember the picture on the left. He had two of those in his room. That's how he like refilled it. And after he taught us how to do it, we made it kind of a ritual. We had to do it before we went into our rooms, like before we went to bed every night. And then one day, the this thing, I don't know what it's called, I'm sorry. This thing was empty. There was no holy water in it. And the whatever they are full of holy water in my dad's room were gone. They weren't standing where they were, you know, always standing. Uh yeah, there were two of them. They were suddenly gone, and there was no more holy water, and we never did it again. And then there is, of course, the topic of how these things over the years wear you down completely, and it's like the life is being sucked out of you. I got into a deep depression. I had a falling out with my family. Uh, you know, I can talk about that in a separate video as well. See, there's a lot in here that I can elaborate on and give its own separate video, but only if people are interested in seeing that, in hearing those stories. There's a very creepy one about my little brother getting I wouldn't say possessed, but I personally think it's a form of possession because he started sleepwalking. Uh, he did some weird things and he never sleepwalked anywhere else, nor has he ever sleepwalked again. That could be a whole story in its own as well. So, if you guys want to know more about any of these things that happened or all of them, just let me know by liking the video and telling me in the comments what you want me to speak about. Because I can elaborate very deeply on most of these topics and I have a lot more stories to tell. So if anyone's interested, please let me know. I wouldn't say excited, but I would be willing to talk about it because it's something that I've always kept to myself, right? Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.